When farmers migrated to the rich lands of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, and New Mexico, they saw the land and soil was awesome for farming, but they didn't know how to farm the land properly. The farmers dried up all the nutrients in the soil by exposing it and farmed too much land. Eventually, the soil became dry. In the summer of 1931, a very bad drought turned to worse when the wind picked up, bringing black dust along with it.
Mama couldn't make bread until I carried water to wash the bread mixer. I couldn't churn until the churn was washed and scalded. We couldn't do anything until something was washed first. Laundry day was especially demanding. I had to wash out the boiler, wash tubs, and the washing machine before we could use them. Then every towel, piece of bedding, and garment had to be taken outdoors to have as much dust as possible shaken out before washing. Anne Marie Lowe.
The dust storm was terrible. Sometimes people couldn't even see across the street when they looked out the windows. The dust was everywhere. Despite everyone's best effort, they tried to block out the dust by putting up rakes in every crack and crevice in their house.
It also did not help that they didn't have modern utilities in their house. They still had to get their water from a well to do everything. Mothers had to put rags over children's mouths to keep them from suffocating. Many cattle starved and died. And when the cows were cut open, dirt spilled out of them. Grasshoppers and jackrabbits also came down in huge swarms. They both devoured everything in their path. Grasshopper storms were so large that they blocked out the sun. Even though things were bad, people kept on farming. Farm prices went down drastically. A farmer would have to sell 40 pounds of cotton to buy a good shirt. Families tried to keep up hope, but thousands, or 66%, moved west.
I recall quite vividly living in a tent at Fort Hall, Idaho, over the 4th of July and eating only potatoes for 24 straight days. On the 24th day, my eldest brother Jim worked from 7 a.m. to noon, loading stacks of potatoes into boxcars, which earned him 10 cents, with which he purchased a loaf of bread. My mother and my 10-year-old sister, Rosemary, played games like Who Can Come Up with Brand New Ways to Cook Potatoes? Ed Holderby.
By 1940, 2.5 million people had moved out of the Dust Bowl states toward the Pacific states. The newly arrived were greeted with a cold shoulder. On most accounts were referred to as Okies, which was equivalent to poor white trash. The residents of California acted defensively against these mass amounts of migrants because they felt that they were a threat to their jobs. Many, after they arrived, came to find out that there wasn't anything for them to do. So many went poor and had nothing, and most lived in their cars or shacks.
The government did try to help during this time, though. During 1932 through 1937, the Department of Agriculture developed programs to help with the soil conservation measures, aid for poverty-stricken farmers, improve the rural credit facilities, and loans for rural electric. The Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1933 was one of the first documents of the New Deal that Congress passed, which it was also declared unconstitutional. Congress passed the Emergency Farm Mortgage Act to provide funds for refinancing farmer mortgages.
The Soil Conservation Act of 1935 was a bill that authorized the government to pay farmers $1 an acre to plant fewer soil-depleting crops and to employ other soil conservation measures such as planting grassy plants to help the soil gain back its nutrients and help prevent topsoil erosion. The dust storms of the 30 had taught farmers a hard life lesson. When the drought cycle calmed down, many farmers turned to making cropland into pastures and grassy lands. Others planted trees to break the wind and hold down the topsoil. Over the years, soil was replenished.
Hello, and today we have Michaela Stieg and Haley Wagner. My name's Dominic Serrano, and we're going to talk about random facts about the Dust Bowl. Did you know that some people started to eat tumbleweeds because it would grow easily in this time and condition?
Did you know a single storm generated enough static electricity to short radios and cause blue flames to erupt from barbed wire fences? It was also strong enough to knock down full-grown men off their feet if they accidentally touched or shook hands. People would drag chains in order to offset the static electricity. On Black Tuesday, enough static electricity was produced to power New York City. Did you know an estimation of 2 million people became hobos? People were illegally hopped on trains to get a job they heard about were thousands or 100 miles away from their Dust Bowl farmlands.
Did you know, in 1 year alone during the Great Depression, an estimated 6,500 people were killed as they tried to hop on a train on their way to California. This was done either by accident or by guards hired to protect the railroads from people jumping on the trains.
Did you know that The Grapes of Wrath was written about the poor people who moved to California to get away from the Dust Bowl?
Really? I thought it was about a bunch of angry grapes.
We need a chop over here! I got it!
Well, and that's that for Did You Know? Thank you for watching.
The bank is something more than men, I tell you. It's the monster. Men made it, but they can't control it. The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck.